That's trouble. Hi, everyone. My name's Hank, and I'm an alcoholic. So this is at least from where I sit, this is a really great. mission. We've been, as you know, our delegate Denise made a motion to the area committee last year calling for the appointment of an ad hoc committee to do an inventory of Area 50. And the idea is, where do we stand in service? You know, what's going on? What happened? How do we update Turning the Lights On program? We put in place this Turning the Lights On program at the end of 2016. And at that time, in 2016, Area 50, when you'd have an assembly like this one, there'd be something like 30 people would show up. We've got about 75 or 80 people involved here today. So about triple 16. There was no money whatsoever in the area budget because no home general service. So that when we would assembly like this, we'd have to ask a group to sponsor the assembly and buy lunch for us because we couldn't afford to give lunch. One of the things that virtually no groups, of only about 10% of the groups in Area 50 were contributing to New York City, to the General Service Office of Area 60, in Area 50. Now it's about 30%, about 3 times as many of our groups are contributing to the area, to General Service, and to our World Service Office in New York, which, as we know, is part of our responsibility in this. And most excitingly, we now have so many more people involved in giving service. And when you listen to the district reports and listen to the area service committee reports, you hear all of the exciting activities that are happening in Area 50. And this is all post-COVID. COVID knocked the legs out from under 50, but around AA. But many very positive things came out of that. We learned how to connect via the internet, and now AA is so much better connected around the world. To come back from that, see the level of participation. So Denise's motion triggered this question: where do we stand? Where are we going? And we set up a committee. Our area chair, Ryan, appointed an ad hoc to run an Area 50 inventory. And I got asked, Ryan asked me if I would chair that committee, and I was glad to do it. And we have a wonderful committee, and I'll sort of go through, he makes her presentation. But one of the things that we did was we met as a committee from June up until December. And Denise's motion called for us to bring in a facilitator from outside of the area so that we could have our inventory organized and led by a vision from beyond Area 50. And what we did was we reached out to Nikki O, who's going to be on the screen here in a minute. She's joining us virtually from the state of Maine. Nikki and I served at the General Service Conference. Like, the two of us are panel 70 delegates to the General Service Conference in New York. And I know a visionary member of our fellowship in General Service, and you can by where her feet are, not where her mouth is. So she graciously came in and she led and guided this process that we've been going through as an area for the last 6 years. The purpose is to hear the voice of the area. What does the area see about where we stand in general service and how can we rebuild that momentum. And Nikki's going to have completed that process under Nikki's guidance. And Nikki is going to give us, you have in your materials today, Nikki's written report. And I really urge you to look this report over. And she's going to give you an overview of that report, recommendations that she is making to Area 50 as to what are the next steps we ought to take. So what we're going to do now is we're going to ask Nikki, we're going to give her an opportunity to have our report, and I think Justin is ready to screen share her PowerPoint, and then we're going to opportunity for questions and comments, and then just some. Thank you to everybody for all of your participation in this effort, and Nikki, it's all yours.
Hi, everybody. My name's Nikki. I'm an alcoholic. Grateful to be here. Sobriety date, January 10, 2002. So guess what? If I make it to Tuesday, that's 21 years.
I just want to make sure I was being asked a question.
So everybody can hear. I know that Joanne can hear me because she clapped. So I think everybody on Zoom can hear too. And I know that Justin is going to be doing the PowerPoint for us. But just to give you Hank already took all my thunder. I'm a panel 70 delegate, area 28, which is Maine. I was on the Grapevine and Lavinia committee, and I currently serve as the Northeast Regional Delegates Secretary Treasurer. I'm lucky enough to be a quiet observer on the Narassa Archives ad hoc committee, and I get to do all kinds of other stuff. So if it tells you nothing more about me, I'm either a fool or a lover of service, or maybe both, I'm not sure. So service has kept me involved all this time. And before I get started, I just want to tell Karen Kay, who's the DCM from 18 and 19, if you do get that information on how to get more people involved, you'll be able to bottle it up and sell it. So make sure that the delegates around the world know how to get more people involved. So, so Justin, if you want to show that, that'd be great. Perfect. So I've already said all that stuff, so we don't need to spend any more time on that. Oh, one thing I did want to say is that because it's really difficult to hear and words are breaking, it's hard to hear all the words. Maybe we can plan on putting any questions in the chat so that everybody can see them and know what we're being asked for. So a little bit of background. Hank called me and said that the committee had talked about having an outside person come in and facilitate your inventory, and that's pretty common. So I was pretty excited about it. I had no idea that it would be 6 months of really hard work. And I didn't do much work at all, but your committee, your ad hoc committee did. So I just want to make sure that everybody thanks Patrick, Joanne, Peter, Nancy, Sandy, and Hank for all the really grueling, time-consuming work that went into this and going out to make sure that everybody who deserves their voice heard had that opportunity. So the other most important thing, if you don't hear anything else from me today, is that I've never seen a strategic plan like turning the lights on in any other area. I've never seen an inventory done this extensive, and I wish and hope that other areas can take some, I don't know, maybe some information from this and go even further. The turning the lights on strategic plan, it's straightforward. It does have some lofty, but it's attainable goals. And it's all for the betterment of Area 50 and being connected with general service. So it's a solid tool. So as I said, we met the weekly meetings. The ad hoc committee reached out to Area 50 membership to request information. There were a couple of videos made that you can find on your website. And the September 10th assembly is where a lot of the questions came from. The questionnaire was formalized based on what that was what information you brought. And then on November 12th, we had the questionnaire available to you, and as you broke out into groups and were able to do some of the questionnaire and send them in to me. And then you went out and forged forward and brought more information in. So that's where everything came from. And the responses and recommendations, they're in the report, but we'll just go over them quick today. One of the questions that I love in this, and we had some back and forth in the committee, which is always good. The last question that was in each section, each one of the goals was, if you were rule maker for the day, ... And it was a really, it's interesting how, you know, a lot of comments came in that there are no rules in AA, and there's a lot of, you know, there were a lot of, you can't make people do things, which of course is true, can't make people do things, but it was an opportunity to hear maybe outside of the box, some, I like to call it green light thinking, you know, rather than just being stuck in the same old, same old. So I think that it was a great one, and it actually brought a lot of stuff forward for us to be able to look at. And so, Justin, you can go to the next slide. Thank you. This is just a snapshot of all the goals. And you can find those all in the strategic plan, which is available on the website. I don't need to read through them. I don't know if I told you this or not, but I hate to be read to, so I'm not going to read to you either. But this will be available for you to look through. And the strategic plan is on the website, and the report back, I believe, was in a packet or something that Sandy had sent out. So you can move on to the next one, please. Great. So goal 1, improve communications with the groups and members. So what was really important about this was finding out how Area 50 communicates with its members groups, and it's interesting, there were an awful lot of people who felt as though they got a lot of information and were happy, and I think that's wonderful. I think that the concerning part, and the reason we do an inventory, is to figure out what we can do better, as well as what we're doing really well at. And there were plenty of people who also said they didn't know. They don't know what's going on. They didn't feel like they had a lot of the communication. And then there's also the people that said that the website was invaluable. So I think that just like every other area, this Area 50 is really no different than any others. You know, communication is the key, and we just need to find different ways to reach people. Some people don't use the internet. Some people don't text. Some people, you know, only have home, you know, phones that hang on the wall. Probably most of you are too young to remember those, but pay phones, all those things, you know. So we just have to meet people where they're at. And I think it's really important that if we have anybody who's interested in general service at all, we reach them however we can. People felt that area officers were informed, they were coming, they were involved, and that was great. The in-person meeting question did generate a lot of feelings of connectedness, and the virtual meetings, a lot of them didn't feel connected at all. So that might be a change in the times. That might be part of what, you know, a pandemic does to an organization like Alcoholics Anonymous. But as Hank said earlier, there are so many things about COVID that were not great at all. They were horrible. And there were a handful of things that really worked out and has made Alcoholics Anonymous bigger. I would never have been able to do this, and it's been an honor to do it. I am in all sorts of places all over the world while I'm sitting here in my office. So reach out to the virtual groups. And the suggestion that the question is, if you were rule maker for the day, what reasonable solution would you insist upon to make certain communication is actively occurring between area and the groups and individual members? And the one thing I really liked a lot that was different than the others were make a one-page graphic explanation of what, when, and where GSRs meet and a simple list of their responsibilities. It's too confusing now. So if you think back to being the first assembly or the first general service event that you walked into and really feeling confused. I try to remember that when I'm at one of my area's functions, when someone walks in brand new, they probably don't know the jargon, they don't know the players, and it's really important. So I liked the idea of the one-page graphic explanation to have for newcomers and some of us older newcomers in service. So and it may already exist, you may already have it, but it might be time to recreate it or update it or share it with the fellowship and just, to get some more fresh blood, if you will. So if you want to go to the next slide, goal 2 is understanding the role of each constituency in general service. This goal captures the responses regarding how members get area information, frequency of workshops and days of learning, and what positions are vacant. And most everybody said that word of mouth was the way they found out about things, unless they went to the website or they had somebody in their group who was either a GSR or somebody in service. That's really the only way they were finding out about area events. That doesn't mean, other events don't exist, but service sponsorship was a big response to, a lot of people responded that service sponsorship was a great way to get information. And there were a handful of people that responded with the frequency of events, and some said every month, some said quarterly, some said annually, and a couple of people actually said that they had never heard of any kind of events that were being put on by area. And so my question, I think, that I ask myself is, how did they know about doing the questionnaire, but they don't know about events? And so maybe they're just brand new and hadn't had the experience and didn't really necessarily know what an area event was. Of course, food encourages attendance. I had no idea that you were going to send me lunch, which you didn't, but food is always a good thing that brings us together anyway. But a couple of other things that people mentioned is that they'd like to have speakers from out of town. They said good speakers, but I don't know how you determine that. But speakers from out of town, speakers that they hadn't heard of before, maybe bringing a different sort of, enthusiasm to the message of general service. And then the other one was that people felt as if AA games like AA trivia or some version of that, and to make sure that the events are offered hybrid, because people do like to attend but can't always get there. So the other piece of that was better communication regarding vacant positions. And I think that you'll see a common piece in this is it's the communication piece. And so how do you make sure that people know that there's an open position? I was really excited to hear your report backs today and hear that so many people were there, and then there were a couple that were missing. And so how do people find out about those vacant positions? And are we as service people educated in service or acclimated to service? Are we letting people know, and are we bringing people along to do whatever job? I mean, not everybody can be a treasurer, not everybody can be whatever, but there's a service position for everybody. So and this question was, if you're a rule maker for the day, what reasonable solution would you insist upon to make certain that everyone who takes an AA position understands their role? And connection and communication from the most recent member to hold that position, and perhaps a contact list of all others currently holding that position who are willing to help the newcomer learn. And I thought that was a pretty, it seems like a pretty simple one, but we forget, right? Because I know Hank and I know Denise and I know Patrick. And so I just call those people. But if you don't know who those people are, it's difficult to get a hold of somebody you don't know, but they might be really good people to help you learn your service position. So, okay, Justin, next, please. Goal 3, improving the work and visibility of the service committees. So this goal explored how Area 50 is utilizing their past delegates and the getting involved in enthusiasm in service committees. And I will say that Area 50 looks a lot like Area 28 in terms of it's nice to see the past delegates be part of. We have a similar situation here, and of course, people from Maine move to Florida all the time. But there's still, we still have contact with them, and our past delegates are really an encyclopedia of information on general service. So that was great to see that that's happening in Area 50 as well. Many of the participants were really thankful for the presence of the past delegates. There was one comment that concerned me, and it's in the report, and it's not a concern. It almost made me laugh, but it said one participant reported past delegates are more clearly heard because of their stature. And I think that's an opportunity for us to reach out and tell people that nobody's voice is more important than anybody else's. Past delegates have more experience, but they ought to, they're supposed to. So the newcomer's voice is as important, if not more important, than a person who's been hanging around a little while. So using past delegates to spread the word about service opportunities and what's coming up and what service committees need help, and even maybe what service committees are, because I think it was James say PCP, and I've said that before too. So people don't know what the different committees might be, and what you have for committees is a little bit different than what we have. We have CPCPI as one committee, and so it's a big committee, and it needs to do a lot of work, and for us to maintain our anonymity and be present in the community is really important. So I think having past delegates spread the word about what the positions are and how people can get involved is really great. And of course, my suggestion on this one is to practice tradition 1. As always, one of the participants who responded shared that they had someone visit their business meeting and told them that the preamble had changed in 2021, and that the group could do whatever it wanted because it was autonomous. And I found this another opportunity for past delegates to be useful. It's an opportunity for growth, because while each group is autonomous, we have to remember the second part of that, unless other groups or AA as a whole are affected. So if everybody's using a different preamble, I don't know if that's good or bad. So a unified voice might be most helpful, and past delegates are probably doing less service work, we hope, at this time, and are able to spread that good news. So on that one, if you're a rule maker for the day, what reasonable solution would you insist upon to make certain service committees are improving work and visible to those wanting to be involved? While service responses mirrored one another, the following seemed probably the most, out there and sounded good. Not sure what could be said without offending. I hope that we're not, well, I hope that I don't know what you're doing, but I hope that I don't put off something that I can't be asked a question or told what's going on. I think it's really important that tradition 1 or unity, because again, we say the newcomer's voice is just as important. So is the opinion that is not mine. That is also, so that was something that stuck out to me. So let's go to the next slide of goal 4, which is increase cooperation and coordination with the intergroups. So this one took me the most time to make sure I captured everything. There's clearly a strained relationship with intergroups, between intergroups and Area 50. And it could be the lack of education regarding area and intergroup connection. There was a lot of talk about the duplicate services. So, and I don't know, I'm just guessing here, but if there is a public information person in area and a public information person in the intergroup, it seems really difficult to try and figure out where I'm supposed to sit, and if I don't know anything about area or I don't know anything about intergroup, I'm really in a position to be indecisive and unable to participate to the best of my ability. And so the lack of united work makes people feel, this is a quote, makes people feel as if they have to choose either area or intergroup. And that didn't really feel, I don't think that that's the intention. So I don't know how to go forward with cleaning that relationship up. But another thing said that duplication doesn't matter due to the lack of participation within both entities. And I guess I would disagree with that. And that's not what I'm here to do, agree or disagree, but I just did. I think that if we start to look at that relationship, maybe things can be a little bit different. There was a reported frustration regarding the meeting lists generated by one entity that do not match the list of the other, and that people do not know with whom to update information. And so again, we fall back into that communication or lack of communication. One of the responses asked, in quotes, if unity is what we are searching for, why do the two entities not unite as an example to the newcomers and people wanting to get involved with service? So that was a good question, I thought. So if you were rule maker for the day, what reasonable solution would you insist upon to ensure there is cooperation and coordination between area and the intergroups? And the answer that stood out most was to have the two integrated with zones and districts that align, make the intergroup its own district, contribute together regarding services, committees of one, not two per CPC, treatment, etc., and that we elect servants, not just one person to head this imperative work. And so that seemed pretty important. And it seems like it might be a good opportunity to reconsider how each entity can support one another and provide opportunities for less animosity. And so we'll go to goal 5. So revive and revise the district structure. So these questions brought to light that, along with a lot of I don't knows regarding district restructuring, that many participants felt that most of the time their questions were answered in a timely manner. So kudos to you. So when people send questions into area, however they do that, people are feeling as though they're being heard and responded to. It was also noted that that there's a lack of DCMs, and that could be a problem, that there's not enough people going out throughout. And, again, the scantiness of DCMs might play a role in it, but if people don't know what they're supposed to do, it's difficult to get involved. One of the responses that I had asked a question about was, how do people get financially backed up if they're having troubles? Does the area offer anything? And there is a fund apparently, but many of the people who were sitting at the table doing the questionnaire together had never heard of that. So another communication piece. I mean, I don't know how you send out, hey, we have fund, we have money if you need money, but that only one person that was doing the questionnaire at that table knew about it it just says that there needs to be more communication out there. There were some suggestions in there about available resources and how that, what else area has, can area officers come to district meetings and help understand what's going on. I'm being asked if I could repeat what was said at the beginning. Oh, yes, of course I will. Okay, and so to minimize duplicate services, to allow for more people to fill vacant positions, really was the idea behind not necessarily needing to revise the district structure, but to revive it. And I think that seemed like a reasonable solution that somebody offered up. So if you were rule maker for the day, what reasonable solution would you insist upon to ensure a healthy, robust district? Here's the answer. Possibly allowing for new positions to build up the number of AAs in the service structure. Sometimes new servicemen or women, new members in general service may be too timid to accept or run for positions that they deem too important, inconvenient, lofty for their experience level. So none of us know how to do our job when we get here, and we don't learn how to do it until the day before our term ends. And so none of us know how to do this, but it's nice to have people who are available to help, navigate through. All right, so goal number 6, and I'm going to be I've already sent it to Hank. I found a spelling error. It's not re-image, it's reimagine the structure and function of the assemblies. So one of the ideas was that finding meetings that aren't involved in general service and help them to see the importance of it. I like to use controversy, like they're going to change the big book to pink. Oh no, what are we going to do? And that does seem to controversy seems to bring people forward. The other enthusiasm breeds enthusiasm really ran through this a lot. People wanted to feel the enthusiasm and see it, and not just have it be that it says making service work look fun instead of a chore. More people will have enthusiasm and take part in the work. And I know that's true. Hank probably can attest to this. I'm a big believer in forced fun. Just ask him. We come here and carve pumpkins whether you want to or not, and so sometimes we have to remember that general service isn't fun for everybody, but if we can bring them in and show them that it can be fun, people do get involved. The finding new people to participate in general service, it says the same people are enthusiastic about general service work, and it's like a rinse and repeat who the players are. So what I've learned over some time is that the power of the vacant seat can be really useful. So rather than just leaving somebody there because nobody else is doing the job, or just bringing somebody in who's already done the job, sometimes we just have to sit and wait for new blood to come in. And there are some jobs that can't, I understand, but in the big picture, it seems to me that the only way to allow new people in is to have the people who've already done the job step away from it. And that is really difficult. Just ask me. So if you were rule maker for the day, what reasonable solution would you insist upon to ensure an area structure that would function at a higher level? And the most prominent response was that each AA group forfeit one meeting each month, or even every other month, for a GSR or even DCM to teach AA members about the AA structure. At this time, available service positions could be announced. And I thought, wow, that's really cool. Somebody really wants to know. They're willing to give up their meeting. And I think that might not be the most reasonable solution as far as just every once a month having it, but I loved the idea that people were just that interested in learning more about what general service is and how important it is for us to all take part in it. It can't be the same people making the same decisions over and over and over again. So it's a great opportunity to consider different options, and maybe your business meeting once a month, you have a different concept of the month, or you invite somebody in, or have somebody come in and talk about service. I believe that Denise might have gotten an email from a past delegate who just made a workshop or 15-minute video, whatever, about what happens to emotion. And I found it fascinating. So maybe she could share that with you, but that would be something that could kickstart. You know, not everybody doesn't understand that their ideas might just be the next AA cool thing to do, you know? So I think we can move to the next slide, please. Okay, so the response rate was 34 emailed responses, and I had gotten 9 of the inventories in the mail prior to the December 10th date, and then a couple more after that. As a matter of fact, I just got one yesterday. So it was, I couldn't add that one in, but there was nothing on there that was outside of what we had already captured. So, but everybody's voice that did send it in is on here. And so it seems like, oh, geez, 34 and 9, we wished it was more. It would have been nicer to have more people. But remember that of those 34 emailed ones, some of those were, you know, groups of people sitting down and doing it together. So at the round tables at your November meeting, or home groups were doing it together. So just because that's all I received, one might have actually had the opinion or the ideas of 10 people or so. So I thought that was really good. And if nothing more, I said this in the beginning, but this is unbelievably infectious, right? I mean, I watched people just getting excited about this, and to sit back and also watch the inventory committee do their work. The fellowship that formed among them, we missed a week or something happened, and one of the members said, oh no, who's going to babysit me, you know, if you're not all here. And so there's a relationship that built within there. And then the committee asking people to be scribes is another way of asking people to get involved and participate. And some people that were scribes had no idea. So they were learning as they were writing. You know, getting officers out to meetings and expressing encouragement, all that stuff is a win. I mean, it's truly a win when more people come together and want to know more about general service. When I first got sober, I didn't care about anything but myself. And, you know, what we do once we get sober is we make sure that this program is available to the people that are coming, you know, next. You know, my kids, my grandkids, we talk about things like that on a regular basis. And so there's an excerpt in the service manual by Bernard B. Smith that I would highly recommend that everybody read. So at this time, I'll give the recommendations. Recommendation 1 is that Area 50 continues to work towards achieving the 6 goals outlined in the Turning the Lights On strategic plan. The importance of continuing the strategic planning work as the fellowship will continue to grow up around newcomers. Recommendation 2, the area chair to assign districts to each officer to visit at least once per year, participate in a district meeting, and show the districts what general service in Area 50 has to offer. Recommendation 3, the area chair appoints an ad hoc committee to consider the duplicate services of area and intergroups to determine which entity is best to handle each identified committee service, and to identify where in Area 50 service structure the intergroups fall, making a clear distinction for newcomers and those new to general service. And then recommendation 4 is for the area chair to appoint an ad hoc committee made up of different members than the current inventory ad hoc committee to examine options for moving forward with this newly gathered information. And so in conclusion, and you know, to thank you, I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to do this, to be part of this, to have been able to meet all the great people on the inventory committee and watch sort of growth happening around us. And the process is always fascinating. It really is. And so I really hope to follow up and see how things are progressing as Area 50, you know, rockets off into the fourth or fifth or whatever dimension you're heading to. So thank you.
The report Nikki just gave barely scratches the surface of the last 6 months of work. As you can see in your handouts from today, he has a written report, which goes into greater depth. And that written report is based on all of the work that's been done over the past 6 months. On our Area 50 website are videos that were taken at the various assemblies. You can see the report backs from we had breakout sessions. We had past delegates in the area. We had other reports from Nikki. There's a great deal of information, and we're creating an archive of the responses that Nikki sent back in. The thing to understand from all of this is that while this is Nikki's report, it's a summary of what she heard from you. And this is your voice. This is the voice of the area that is speaking as to where we want to go. We're going to have an opportunity for questions, comments from the floor and virtually a second. I just want to say that we're in our big book. It tells us that now we've taken an inventory. What are we to do with it? This is something which we should go home and say, well, that was very interesting. Thank you very much. Nikki's made an important recommendation, which is that the area set up a committee, work that's been done over the past 5 years, and to come up with a plan that everyone will participate in as to how we can pick up the pace and develop service that helps us live all three of our legacies. So we're going to take some time now. If anyone, either virtually or in person, has questions, comments that we'd like to offer, and then we'll have a couple of closing remarks once the questions and comments are done. I'm going to ask Justin to keep an eye on the screen. If you're virtual, and just raise your virtual hand. But is there anyone here in the audience that has any questions or comments on what we've heard so far? Okay, how about anybody virtually? Okay, so we'll bring this inventory to a close. Just in closing, I want to express my gratitude to all the members of the committee. Patrick is here. Joanne is online. Stand up, Nancy. Nancy is here. Andy Sue, our corresponding secretary, was a very valuable member of the committee. And Peter J. from District 18 was a critical member, the only GSR that we had on the committee. Very valuable to have his input. This committee worked its butt off, and I'm very grateful for what everybody did. So thanks for the opportunity to serve. God bless Alcoholics Anonymous.